Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast, and this is a special Q&A edition of the State of the Saints podcast. This show is dedicated to the Who That Nation. Okay, this show right here is when I answer the questions for some of the loyal listeners and viewers of the State of the Saints podcast. And first off, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for taking the time out to send your questions. And I want to let you know that the State of the Saints podcast is absolutely nothing without you. Okay, so I want to say thank you first and foremost before I even get started. But once again, I had so much fun last week, I had to do it again. I'm bringing back my big brother, EJ Jones. What's going on, E?
What's up, man? Who that? Who that?
Who
What's
that,
up,
man?
everybody?
Hey, man, thank you very much for taking the time out. Do this video once again, man. I had so much fun last week. It was just like old times. It was like, we sitting in our grandmother's den talking about the New Orleans Saints after a crushing loss back in '95. It was beautiful. It was, it was beautiful. It was beautiful, man. But thank you very much, man. I appreciate you for joining us today, man. Thank you so much.
No problem, man. It's always a pleasure.
Oh yeah, man. So we're gonna go ahead and get started, man. First off, before we get into the Q&A, let's go ahead and talk about some things that have been going on with the Saints. The first thing I want to talk about, PJ Williams. The New Orleans Saints have re-signed cornerback PJ Williams. Now, I put out a video about PJ Williams and how I felt about it. I don't want to beat a dead horse, so I'm gonna go ahead and allow you to go first. And I want to know, what do you think about the Saints re-signing PJ Williams? Are you surprised that this happened? Are you shocked? I mean, how do you feel about it?
I'm not too shocked about it. I mean, I know the Saints needed a cornerback and everything, so not too shocked that they have to sign him back. He is somebody that made some plays last year. I'm just curious to see how much time he's gonna get actually out there playing or whatever. You look at the cornerbacks that was available in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
It's not too deep. So why not keep somebody that actually knows the defense and everything?
Right.
Why not keep somebody who has that experience?
Right.
It's not too surprising.
So you're telling me you're not surprised that they brought him back?
Nah, I'm not surprised.
What, man? Look, I just cannot get behind this, man. I just can't, man. For the last couple of years, PJ Williams has been getting misused and abused in the secondary. And even though he played a little bit better last season, that's not saying much, man. I'm looking at his player profile on playerprofile.com. He has given up a 58.8% completion rate, which means a wide receiver catches the ball on him 58.8% of the time. Last season, it was 65.8. How much do the New Orleans Saints have to see out of this guy? I just think that you could have went out here and got somebody like Nikel Roby-Coleman, man. Like, Nikel Roby-Coleman was a guy that I was lobbying for. And I know a lot of people in the Who That Nation don't like this guy because, he was the guy who hit Tommy Lee Lewis and the referees didn't call a pass interference. But I don't care about that kind of stuff, man. Look, it wasn't his fault that the ref didn't call pass interference. He was just out there trying to make sure that Tommy Lee didn't score. I look at this guy. He was a guy that the Rams didn't want to pay, but he's always been a steady nickel corner. And I think the Saints could have easily signed him for the same amount of money as a PJ Williams. So let me ask you this. Do you think that PJ Williams is back with the New Orleans Saints for depth, which I've been hearing a lot of people saying on Who That Nation, or do you think that he's there to be a starter again?
Well, he ain't here to be a starter. I think it's more about depth. Maybe Patrick Robinson or whatever. I think they're here to be depth. I don't think he's starting.
Right.
That would be crazy. I just don't think he's able to do that. I don't think he's a starter in this league or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, he might be a 4th or 5th cornerback, but I don't think he's a starter.
Right. Yeah, I don't think he's a starter either.
I don't think he is.
Honestly, I don't think he's a starter either. But look, I'm not sold on this whole depth situation everybody been talking about. I heard the same thing last year when they re-signed him. Oh, he just there for depth. He's just there for depth. And the Saints parade him out there week one getting posterized and roasted and toasted. All I'm saying is this, man. History has a way of repeating itself, okay? And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And the Saints' issue, has been the secondary, giving up big plays late. I mean, you got Janoris Jenkins, you got Malcolm Jenkins. I mean, those are guys that I feel like are going to make the secondary a little bit more steady, but you still have the usual suspects that team are going to be zero in on because they know that these guys are going to be the guys that they're going to be picking on late in games. So I'm kind of confused by that, E. And even though you are saying that you're not surprised by this, I have to say that I am, man, because I thought the Saints would have been going in a different direction. I mean, they got rid of Ken Crawley in the middle of the season. I thought P.J. Williams would have found another home somewhere else. I mean, I was pretty confident that P.J. Williams was probably going to end up playing somewhere else, maybe Tampa Bay, Miami, or somewhere else, in the National Football League, but not with the Saints, man. But I got to say, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of this decision. But let's go ahead. Let's talk a little bit about another cornerback who the Saints could possibly re-sign, and that's Eli Apple. Now, according to sources, Eli Apple had contract issues with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, a couple weeks ago, he was supposed to sign with the Las Vegas Raiders, but it fell through. Now he finds himself as a free agent once again. E, let me ask you this. Do you think the New Orleans Saints need to re-sign Eli Apple?
No. You probably agree on it.
Right.
I don't think they should re-sign him.
Mm-hmm. Why not?
If the Raiders didn't sign him, I mean, you were just talking about people getting roasted and toasted like it was Thanksgiving.
Right.
That guy, I mean, he is. If you know the scheme and you're still getting beat, either you don't know the scheme or don't have the ability to stick some of the top echelon receivers in this league. I think it got to be him not being able to physically stick these wide receivers we have in the NFC South. You got Goodwin, you got Evans, you got Jones, you got Ridley. I mean, you got people like that. You can't stand, and if you can't guard those people, man, you need to get on out the way. At best, I think Eli Apple now is the third or fourth cornerback in the team, but I don't think he's the second one.
Right.
And no, I don't think they should have re-signed him. I don't. I think they got a better chance of signing Kirkpatrick than they do Eli Apple.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about that, man. Shouts out to my guy, Toddy Abear. Toddy Abear on Facebook. He asked me that question, what I think about the Saints re-signing, well, not re-signing, but signing Dre Kirkpatrick, a guy that has been an NFL lifer with the Cincinnati Bengals. We know the Cincinnati Bengals, zero success in the playoffs. What do you think about Jerry Kirkpatrick possibly signing with the New Orleans Saints? Do you think the Saints need to pursue a guy like that?
There's a better chance in them pursuing him than they are pursuing Eli Apple, to be honest with you.
Right.
Hold on a bit.
Well, the only reason...
Yeah, honestly, I think they could do better. Maybe drafting somebody after drafting Drake Kirkpatrick, somebody that just been around for losing teams,
right?
A long time, pretty much.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, I look at Drake Kirkpatrick. I've been watching this guy since he was at Alabama. I mean, I've been watching this guy for a long time. Big, tall guy. Big, tall cornerback. Good hands, lengthy, and I think if you put him in a nickel, he can make some noise. Honestly, I'm not going to pretend like I've been watching Drake Kirkpatrick like all in Cincinnati or something like that. I know he played for the Bengals for years. I know he had a couple up and down seasons. Not really hearing his name mentioned among some of the best cornerbacks in the league, but I do believe that Drake Kirkpatrick can be a step up from a P.J. Williams. I mean, I don't know Eli Apple or not. I don't know the way he been rolling over these past couple of years, but P.J. Williams, most definitely. But, E, I am definitely on board with you when it comes to the NFL draft. I look at some of these guys and I'm looking at the pattern of the New Orleans Saints. If you've been looking at it, they've been signing the same guys. They've been signing back Andrews Pete. They got back David Anyamata. They brought back P.J. Williams. They're getting the same guys. I am like, man, maybe you need to hook up with Jeff Ireland because it seems like he been hitting in the draft. I mean, you got C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I feel like if you get another guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson at the cornerback position or somewhere in the secondary, you got yourself something. That guy plays with passion. He loves the game. He's physical. And once again, I can see in a couple of years him having a C on his chest because he is so passionate about playing the game of football. I want to see guys that are passionate, that are not afraid to go out there and make a hit and make a play, not afraid to make a mistake. I mean, I look at C.J. Gardner-Johnson in that game against the San Francisco 49ers on that 4th and 2. He got beat by George Kittle, and George Kittle got down the field. And, of course, we seen what happened, people jumping on his back or what have you. But that play started because C.J. Gardner-Johnson was out of position. And when they went to the locker room and talked to him, he said, I'm a rookie. He said, I'm young. He said, I guarantee you, he said, I'm going to get better from this. I'm going to learn from this. And he did, man. I mean, we seen him he put that big hit on Ty Sharp in the Tennessee Titan game to force the fumble. We seen him jump in front of a Matt Ryan, to get an interception. So, I mean, this guy continuously plays at a high level. I think if the Saints go out here and do the same thing what you just said, E, and get somebody in the draft that can play in the nickel with the same type of physicality and the want to be a champion type mentality, I think they should be okay, man. But I'm tired of the same old song and dance, and I'm tired of the same old usual suspects being paraded through the secondary, only for our hearts to get ripped out year after year as Saints fans. It becomes frustrating, man.
Amen to that.
I mean, I look. I know a lot of people think that I'm too harsh on some of these Saints players, but man, this ain't like no asking and wishing. You know what I'm saying? This ain't no back in the day. You know what I'm saying? This go back in the days as far as the Saints. Man, we seen our fair share of heartbreak, and we don't want to go down that same route, man. And I feel like you can nip these situations in the bud if you go out here and you get yourself some guys that have a warrior type mentality, and you build around those guys, and you'll have yourself a credible secondary. But I mean, that's my opinion on that. Let's go ahead and fast forward, man. I gotta ask the question. Someone wanted me to ask the question. Shouts out to my guy Casey Neal on Facebook. He wanted to talk a little bit about Jordan Love. He wanted to talk about Jordan Love because, of course, I said that I don't feel like Taysom Hill is the future of the New Orleans Saints. I think that he is going to be a guy that, eventually probably be in that starting role, and they'll probably have him start for a couple of years. And another guy who I feel like they probably going to draft is going to be the successor to Drew Brees, the true franchise quarterback. So he wanted me to ask the question about Jordan Love. Since I'm not sold on Taysom Hill, what about Jordan Love? E, do you think that the Saints have an opportunity or a chance to get Jordan Love? And if they do have a chance to get him, do the Saints need to pull the trigger?
I think they do. I think they do have a chance to get Jordan Love. The thing about it, it's not a question if the Saints have a chance to get him. It's a question of what are the other teams in front of them? What are they looking to get?
Right.
Tua's probably going to be gone.
Yeah, he's out of here. Yeah.
Justin Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
This is not I don't think this is a real deep quarterback class. I think wide receiver is more deep.
Yeah.
I think you probably expect more people getting like offensive lines, wide receivers, things like that. So I think there might be a chance for the Saints to actually, get Jordan Love in the draft.
Right.
Good chance, man. It's fast.
Yeah. The one thing I can say about the New Orleans Saints is when the Saints like somebody, they go out there and they get them. As much as people are very frustrated by this, we seen a couple years ago the Saints move up in the first round to get Marcus Davenport. They gave up their first-round pick to the Green Bay Packers the following year. But, I mean, you look at the draft positioning of the New Orleans Saints getting all the way to the NFC Championship game. I mean, so the Green Bay Packers have got, like a 28 or 29 pick. So that's basically like you're getting a second-round pick out of the Saints. So when I look at the Saints, they're always been aggressive. They're not afraid to move up and try to get the players that they want. The Saints were in the sweepstakes as of right now, being one of the teams that have been video conferencing Jordan Love along with the Green Bay Packers. So the Saints want to talk to this guy, which is very unusual because the Saints don't really talk to quarterbacks. Especially in the first round, usually like those later round quarterbacks they talk to. I think the Saints like Jordan Love a lot, and I would not be surprised if the Saints move up to get Jordan Love. It would not surprise me at all because I think the New Orleans Saints, you look at the wide receiver position, the question on everyone's mind is who is going to be the number 2 outside of Michael Thomas, who's going to be the other guy to complement Michael Thomas. They answered that question with Emmanuel Sanders. So even if the Saints go out here and get a wide receiver, you said it, E, they can get in a late round because this is a deep draft for the wide receiver position. It's not like you can't get a guy that can be a contributor to your team in the 3rd or the 4th round. This is a huge draft. Guys have huge upside, great hands, and great ability. You look at, according to draft scouts everywhere, they're saying that this is the highest rated wide receiver class in history, dude. So that tells you everything that you need to know. That tells you everything you need to know about this draft. So I think the Saints answered the question at number 2. You can easily talk about linebackers with Kenneth Murray out there in Oklahoma, but I think the Saints would be interested more in getting this quarterback, Jordan Love. It would not surprise me if the New Orleans Saints relinquish another number 1 pick in the following year to get Jordan Love to move up. It would not surprise me whatsoever. I think that the Saints would be really interested in Jordan Love, and it wouldn't surprise me because look, man, we all know it's a copycat league, don't we, E? We know it. We know it, man. Last year, the big wave was the young offensive innovative coach, right? Because Sean McVay had so much success with the Rams. So you see people like the Cincinnati Bengals getting a young coach. You see Arizona getting Cliff Kingsbury. So this year, the new wave is the arm talent quarterback. The arm talent quarterback. Why? Because the last thing we saw was Patrick Mahomes lifting the Lombardi Trophy. You have Jordan Love now, a guy who a lot of people are comparing to who? Patrick Mahomes. So everybody wants to find that next Patrick Mahomes. And that's the reason why I feel like Jordan Love would be the guy that the Saints go out there and get. What do you think about that? As far as like people saying that he is the next Patrick Mahomes. What have you saw out of Jordan Love? And do you think that the Saints should try to move up to get him? Do you think he's worth it?
Well, to say he's the next Patrick Mahomes, to say somebody is the next Patrick Mahomes, he has to have that P word, which is potential.
Right.
So, what the dude has potential, the thing about potential, a lot of people have potential.
Right.
You just have to turn that potential into actually talent.
Right.
Mahomes did that. He did that pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it because he had a patient offense. You got Andy Reid, he's real patient.
Yeah.
And then you have a lot of person who don't really get a lot of attention.
Right.
They're in the interview. A lot of people don't know about him. I watched the dude when he played in college for Colorado.
Yeah.
And that dude, he had to earn his stake in the NFL or whatever.
Right.
He really wasn't a all-star in the NFL or whatever.
Right.
So you really have to, earn his keep.
Yeah.
He turned into a real good offensive coordinator or whatever.
Yeah.
He was real talented and he had a talented quarterback around him.
Mm-hmm.
So if Jordan Love was to go to the Saints, I think he's blessed to have a good offensive mind and a real creative offensive coordinator in Sean Payton to turn that potential into talent.
Right.
It would be a good look for the Saints.
Yeah. I think it'll be a good look for the Saints too, and not to mention that's somebody I feel like that can push Taysom Hill, and we will really find out what type of quarterback Taysom Hill can be if you was to get this guy Jordan Love, because this guy is going to challenge you. He is going to go out here and he's going to get better and better. And even though we see Jordan Love, he suffered last season, 20 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. So this is a guy right here that needs to go to the right situation. He needs to go to the right situation in order for him to develop some true quarterback skills. So by him sitting on the bench for a year or two really wouldn't hurt him. Probably will make him a little bit better and more seasoned. And the game, of course, will slow down for him. And, with that arm talent along with Sean Payton's innovation, I think he should be okay, man. But you have some people in the Who Dat Nation, they're thinking about Kenneth Murray out of Oklahoma, a hybrid linebacker, a guy that's sideline to sidelines, and he's really smart, man. Kenneth Murray going to the New Orleans Saints at 24. Do you see that as a possibility as well?
Well, Kenny Murray goes to the Saints at 24, and basically they'll instill him as a starter in this league, pretty much.
Yeah, right.
You don't get a linebacker at number one. You don't start him.
Yeah.
My question is, like, whose spot would he take?
Yeah.
He ain't taking the Mario Davis spot no time soon.
Oh, no.
So whose spot would he be taking?
Well, I can see him kind of, vying for that strong side linebacker position. The Mario Davis is, the anchor. He's in the middle. But you look at Kiko Alonso, Alex Anzalone. These are guys that are good, but they have a history of being hurt. These aren't guys that are just 16-game players, playoff caliber, all-season type guys, even though these guys have talent. But you have Kenneth Murray, who I feel like could play that strong side. Heck, he can even play that weak side linebacker. And I think that you can honestly put him in there. Now, you go to camp and you make him challenge Alex Anzalone or Caden Ellis, or I don't know if Jumper's still with the Saints or not. But you make him challenge these guys. And I guarantee you, man, you look at the talent and ability of a Kenneth Murray, and you look at the toolage of Mario Davis, teaching this guy and, molding and shaping this guy. I think he can be a really good linebacker in this league, So if the Saints decide not to get Jordan Love, and it just so happens that Kenneth Murray is there sitting at number 24, I would not be mad at this decision at all, man. I mean, this guy has it all, man. He has room to grow. I mean, I seen some games, him playing at Oklahoma. I mean, he took over the game. I mean, I watched the Red River rivalry game out there against Texas, and I mean, he was all over the field, man. You know what I'm saying? So
can you imagine how much better he'll be if Oklahoma really had a real good defense?
Oh, yeah. And that tells you a lot, too, E. For the fact that he plays on a team that's not really known for defense, and he stands out the way that he does, man. Because, these guys are giving up big plays week after week. But he's a guy, when he put his paws on you, you're going down. So I would not be upset. I would not be upset if he was to go to the Saints at 24, if the Saints would not move from that 24th position in order to get him. And I would not be surprised if the Saints go into the teens if Jordan Love is gone and they don't try to get Kenneth Murray. That would not be a surprise to me at all. But those are some of the hot topics. We talked a little bit about Taysom Hill last week. But I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to answer some of the questions from the Who Dat Nation. Now, these questions are given on Facebook. Some of these are given on Instagram. And if you all have any questions that you want to send to the State of the Saints podcast, please do. Facebook.com, search the State of the Saints podcast, or you can go to Instagram and follow at TJ Jones _ just send me your questions, man. I would love to hear from you. I love answering questions from the Who Dat Nation. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those up. And right now, I want to give a special shout out to Isaac Hawthorne, man. Somebody that shouted me out. I want to say thank you. My guy, Justin. Some of the usual suspects I want to mention, man. Cross, my boy Bobby Cross. Jerry Poor, Dalton, DLP 2600. Man, all of these guys who constantly comment on YouTube, comment on Facebook, always showing love, always bringing interesting questions to the podcast. So thank you all very much, man. Casey Neal wanted to talk a little bit about Jordan Love. We answered the question about Jordan Love before, so shouts out to Casey as well. Let's see. Michael Roberts says, "Hey TJ, I have a question. The future Alvin Kamara, ever since he has joined Clutch Sports, and we all know that Clutch Sports ain't playing around when it comes to athletes and their contracts, He has been angling to be the highest paid running back in the league. Could you see this becoming a problem? Do you think that Alvin Kamara and his affiliation with Clutch Sports can be a problem for the Saints when it comes to contracts in the future?
Look at the track record. I mean, we all know what Clutch Sports is.
Mm-hmm.
We all know Anthony Davis with Clutch Sports.
Right.
I mean, you already know what it is. Right?
Yep.
And it wouldn't be, if an agent told you that they're not trying to get their player the most money, then they lying.
Right.
That's the goal of an agent. Yeah,
Right.
of course he's trying to give you the most money.
Yep.
So, yeah, he is trying to be the most highest paid running back.
Right.
Name our list of running backs who've been to 2 Pro Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got Ty Gurley, but he really been hurt. I mean, you got Derrick Henry. And as I'm saying, Derrick Henry probably deserves to be the highest paid running back, given all the carries and stuff he be having.
Right.
So he probably deserves to be the highest paid running back.
I agree.
But how much would a highest paid running back be making?
Mm-hmm.
They want to downplay the significance of a running back these days or whatever. How much
that is true.
running back be making nowadays?
Mm-hmm. I mean, look,
how much should they be making?
Well, look, I mean, look, I look at Alvin Kamara this way. Alvin Kamara is an incredible talent. Had a little bit of a down season last season, but we got reports saying that he played the entire season about 75%. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give him the benefit of the doubt because, I mean, he's played 3 seasons, and his 3rd season he didn't play so well. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, E. But I don't think that Clutch Sports is going to be an issue when it comes to Alvin Kamara and his contracts. Alvin Kamara controls what his contract is going to say at the end. Alvin Kamara, if he has another season like he did last season, shouldn't get a big contract. Do I feel like he should be the highest paid running back in the league? Absolutely not. No, he does not. Because first off, Alvin Kamara is not an every down back. He shares a backfield with someone else. He has been that way his entire career. And you can say, well, it's not his fault. That's just the way the Saints run their offense. But I would say that the way that the Saints were using him last season and him being the bell cow back, quote unquote, it didn't work in his favor. So that kind of showed me that he can't be that every down back. He has to be that complimentary back. So I don't feel like he should be the highest paid running back in the league. Honestly, I like Alvin Kamara, but when it comes to running up the middle, taking a pounding, being an every down back, there's some guys that out there that's better than him at that position. So I don't feel like he should be the highest paid running back, but I do think the Saints are going to pay him what they feel like he deserves. I feel like they're going to come to a mutual agreement. I don't feel like they're going to push him out of the door. I feel like Alvin Kamara is going to be a New Orleans Saint for at least another 4 to 5 years. You never know how the running back position goes. If you would have told me that Mark Ingram wouldn't have been with the New Orleans Saints this past season, I probably would have told you probably not going to, probably most likely he's going to be here. He ended up going to Baltimore. I don't see that with Alvin Kamara. I see Alvin Kamara being with the Saints for a couple more years, probably until he's probably, in his late 20s. And then, that dreadful 30-year-old age that running backs reach, people just kind of kick them out the door. Organizations just kick them out of the door. So I do see Alvin Kamara as being a Saint, and I think they're going to get some contracts. I think they're going to get a contract negotiated. Probably going to be his first contract, probably going to be about 3 years, and then they're probably going to sign him to another 2-year contract after that. But just thank you very much, Mike, man. Thank you for your question. Now we're going to move on to LJ Griff. LJ Griff says, what are the chances that the New Orleans Saints use Cam Newton as their backup quarterback this season? What do you think about that? Cam Newton coming to the New Orleans Saints to be a part of the quarterback rotation.
No, I think that's foolishness. I think that to get on my Stephen A. Smith soapbox, I think that is foolish. I think that is tomfoolery. I think that is utterly ridiculous. I don't think Cam Newton still think he could be a starting quarterback.
Yeah,
I think he could be a starting quarterback too. Mm-hmm. And honestly, this game that Carolina is running right now, I think it'd be good for him.
Yeah,
but they want to go in a different direction with Teddy Bridgewater. Mm-hmm. He will start stealing this league or whatever. he
Right.
would make the same money he made with Carolina. And I
Right.
don't think that man. I think he's too proud enough. He's not trying to be a star. This guy's like 30,
Right.
maybe 30, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
Could be. I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, he's 30.
But that guy still thinks he could be a star. He still thinks he could be a starter in this league.
Yeah.
I still think he can be too.
Me
I
too.
mean, don't be surprised if he's a draft day player that's moving or something like that.
Yeah.
As of now, is he actually a free agent or does Carolina still have his contract?
Well, no, actually,
I don't know.
Carolina released him. Carolina released him, so he's free to sign with
Okay.
any team he wants.
And he is released. So you have Cam Newton out there who's probably going to warrant on $20 million.
Right.
Or either close to $20 million.
Right.
So you have him or you draft somebody out the draft. You'll come by cheaper if you was to draft a quarterback out of the draft. But if you're a playoff team but you don't have a quarterback or you don't have a quarterback who's confident enough that, you might want to roll with, say maybe like I don't know. I don't know what Denver's doing these days.
Right.
Somebody like that.
Yeah.
They want to kick the tires on a person right here.
Right.
So, but no. Back up for us. Heck no.
Yeah. I really don't see that happening, but I will say this, man. There's one thing that I would never go against, and that's a confident Cam Newton, man. Cam Newton has been a guy who, when he's motivated and he's confident, man, he can hurt you in so many ways, man. I mean, I think about his college career, like when Florida gave up on him. He ended up going to Blinn College and then again to Auburn. I mean, I look at how he basically put the Auburn Tigers on his back and willed them to a national championship game. You can even talk about Carolina when they went 15-1 and they went to the Super Bowl. Cam Newton is one of those guys when you tell him that you can't do it, we're going in another direction, that fuels his fire. So I feel like whoever gets Cam Newton, they're going to get a guy who probably going to be in a conversation for MVP. I think one of the things that is hurting Cam Newton right now is COVID-19. Teams don't have opportunities to go out here. We're all practicing social distancing, so they can't go out here and say, well, Cam, can you meet us at our facility? We want to give you a physical. Basically it's all about hearsay. I mean, you heard about Tom Brady going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay doctors couldn't look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization had to agree mutually for Tom Brady to go see a doctor in New York and get his physical there. And they basically took the prognosis and everything that doctor said to heart, and that's how they signed Tom Brady. When you look at Cam Newton, I think teams want to take a look at him personally before they make any type of decisions. That is the only reason why I feel like Cam Newton is still out here. Okay, I don't think it has absolutely nothing to do with his ability. I don't think it has anything to do with his talent. I don't think it has anything to do with anything else other than they want to see how well that shoulder is holding up and has he fully healed. I mean, we look at Cam Newton. I mean, we looked at some of those videos. I mean, the guy's chiseled out of granite. You know what I'm saying? Dude got muscles in places where people don't even have places. You know what I'm saying? He's a physical dude, man. Yeah. And, so I don't think that that's a problem. The thing that's hurting Cam Newton right now, once again, is the coronavirus, COVID-19, and teams can't physically reach out and touch him and see for themselves that he is 100%. I think when you look at Tom Brady, I mean, it's kind of apples and oranges, my friend. I mean, a 6-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady, if somebody say he's healthy, hey, I'm rolling with him versus a guy who's a one-time MVP and a one-time Super Bowl appearance, and he lost that, I think that the 6-time Super Bowl champion is going to win every time. That's just my personal opinion. Okay, so I think that's the thing that's hurting Cam Newton, but I don't see him in a Saints uniform. Probably got a better chance to see Jameis Winston in a Saints uniform. And that's the last question before we get out of here, E. I want to ask you, people have been talking about Jameis Winston playing for the Saints and it could revitalize his career. Do you see that happening? Jameis Winston being a New Orleans Saint?
Wow, man. I just can't see that happening. I just think the Saints gonna roll with what they got.
Yeah.
The Saints keep 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
At most, they might have 5, and that's in training camp.
Right.
I see 3 or 4 quarterbacks in training camp or something like that.
Okay. Well, E,
No,
hold on, E.
no.
Before look, E, think about this too. Okay. I want you to think about this, and I want to make sure that you fully understand the mind of Sean Payton and everything that's going on. Now, Sean Payton had an interview on ESPN's Get Up with Mike Greenberg, right? And they talked maybe like 7 minutes. And the question was asked about Taysom Hill continuing his Swiss Army knife type road that he had last season. And Sean Payton says he sees that happening. So in order for that to happen, we know that the Saints are possibly going to have to carry a third quarterback. Okay, because you're not gonna have Taysom Hill doing all these different things, and there's a possibility that he can get hurt and not have a guy who's a backup to Drew Brees. Okay, so you need that extra guy, especially if Taysom Hill is going to be on the field taking some punishment. So I want to put that in your mind. So with that being said, and now that you know that, do you think there's a possibility that Jameis Winston can come aboard and be a member of the Saints? Do you still feel the way that you do, or do you think because of what you just heard is a possibility?
I think Jameis Winston, I want to say he's younger than Cam Newton.
Yeah, he is.
He
26.
might have a chance to still. He's 26, so he still has a chance to be a starter in this league.
Right.
But like I said, unfortunately, I think he's probably going to be one of those people who, in the season, somebody might, get a workout through maybe prior in the season. And then if a quarterback is hurt, you're going to get a call. And we call him off his couch or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he may have a chance with the Saints. They have to sign him and Taysom Hill, what they already have. So if you get Taysom Hill and him, who's your backup quarterback? There's going to be Taysom Hill, who you gave a first round tender to,
Mm-hmm.
or it's going to be Jameis Winston. With Taysom Hill, your third string backup with a first round tender, which I probably never heard of a day in my life. So, I just think they're just going to take their chances with Taysom Hill. I think he's going to be another person. It's kind of like Eli Terrell, what's his name?
Tyrod Taylor.
Who
Yeah.
went from Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
He's the quarterback, the starter. They eased him Baker Mayfield. Then he lost the job.
Right.
Then he went to, I believe, the Chargers or whatever. Now
Yeah.
he's looking like he could be the heir apparent with the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
So they might even bring somebody else to challenge him for the. Or that might be a team that the Saints may have to worry about with a quarterback for us like Love or any of those other like second tier quarterbacks or whatever they're supposed to be drafted. So that might be competition for Jordan Love right there for us. Hell, they're on the West Coast. You know they already know about him. Dude's from Utah State.
Right.
Dude might even be from California. I have to look that up.
Yeah.
That might even be.
I think he's from Nevada, if I'm not mistaken. I think he may be from Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
Could be.
They did their research on him already. But,
Right.
As far as James Wilson, that's another person. I know that's too much money to spend on a backup quarterback.
Right.
Somebody who's been a starter for about 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And he's 26, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
That man might want to come in and be a backup quarterback.
I mean, it could help him. It could help him as far as his future. I mean, we seen what happened with Teddy Bridgewater. You never know. But to answer your question, E, who would be the backup quarterback? It would be Jameis Winston, because you look at what Taysom Hill is doing all these different things. You have to understand, man. And I think that I want the Who That Nation to understand. Taysom Hill in the morning, he starts off in the quarterback room. Then he leaves the quarterback room to go to the tight end room. Then from the tight end room, he goes to the special team room. So in between all of those stops, you know what I'm saying? And you have Drew Brees, who is in the quarterback room all day. You know what I'm saying? You'll have Jameis Winston in the quarterback room all day. So that tells you right there, most likely, they're probably going to make Jameis Winston their backup quarterback. And, of course, we know that he throws more picks than Razor Ramon. So if he goes out there and he struggles, if let's just say Drew Brees gets hurt again, let's knock on wood. We don't want that to happen. But let's just say that Drew Brees gets hurt. Jameis Winston comes in as the backup. He's throwing picks left and right. I mean, 1 interception, 2 interceptions, channeling his inner Stoney case. in comes Taysom Hill. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's the way that I look at it. You know, that's the way that I feel like it's going to happen, man. But the Saints are going to have to carry a third quarterback because you have to account for the fact that Taysom Hill could possibly get hurt, running an RPO or going out there running, a tight end, a tight end out. You gotta be careful with that. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta make sure that you dot every I and cross every T. And that's something that Sean Payton does pretty well. He pays attention to detail so much sometimes that it ends up biting him in the butt. So I think that he's going to be fully prepared. I don't think that Taysom Hill and Drew Brees are just going to be a 1-2 punch. I think the Saints are going to end up adding another quarterback. Now, we can find out later what direction they're going to go in. Rather it be someone they draft, rather it be Jordan Love or Jalen Hurts or another quarterback late in the draft. We don't know. Okay, but eventually they're going to have to carry a number 3 quarterback. If you ask me, would it be Jameis Winston? Probably not. I think that Jameis Winston probably going to end up somewhere like in Pittsburgh or something like that. A lot of people compare his play to a young Ben Roethlisberger. So why not go out there to Pittsburgh, learn under Big Ben, maybe, resurrect your career, cut down on some of the interceptions because even though, we talk about Jameis Winston and he's the butt of everybody's jokes, I mean, the guy still threw for 5,000 yards last season, and you can say those 5,000 yards came because he put his team in a hole and he had to throw the team back into the game, but he still was out there wheeling and dealing, you know what I'm saying? No risk it, no biscuit type mentality. So I think he can resurrect his career if he goes to somewhere like Pittsburgh, but he has to sit down and he has to humble himself, man. And he's going to have to be in a position where he's never been before, and that's being a backup. You look at Jameis Winston coming up from Alabama, going to Florida State, winning a Heisman Trophy. He's always been the guy. Well, sometimes you got to humble yourself and realize you can't be the guy until you actually sit behind a guy. Okay, so hopefully he'll get the message and he resurrect his career. I'm rooting for both Cam Newton and Jameis Winston, both Heisman Trophy winners and both brothers that I think we all can say that they deserve another opportunity in the National Football League, no doubt. But this has been the State of the Saints podcast. It is yours truly, TJ Jones. And once again, I want to thank my big brother, EJ Jones. Thank you so much, EJ, for being a part of the show once again, man. It's always a good time when, me and you get together. Thank you so much.
No problem, man. It's all about them who that.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, man, let everybody know how they can get in touch with you.
I'm still working on my actual State of the Saints Apple page with my bro. Mm-hmm. But you can get me on the Emmanuel Jones scene at Facebook. And I do my art thing. So if you like art, you just go to Emmanuel Jones for art. It's on Twitter, Instagram. I don't have a TikTok page yet. I don't know much about it. You can just find me along those lines. Yeah. I'm still evolving for TikTok. So.
Yeah. I think we all are, man. No doubt. Hey, man, once again, man, check him out. Emmanuel Jones Sr. on Facebook. And is it E. Jones Arts on Instagram? E. Jones Arts on E. Jones Art on Instagram. Y'all check him out. And of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com search The State of the Saints Podcast. Also, facebook.com. Search The State of the Saints Podcast. Thank you all once again for your questions. Once again, you can inbox me on Facebook. You can comment down below this video, or you can go to Instagram, follow me at TJJones_, and you can DM me your questions there. Thank you all so much for thanking so much of the podcast to send your questions. Much love to you, all of you in the Who Dat Nation. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?